Well, it's beautiful with spacious skies, has amber waves of green, and has purple mountains majestic that rise up out of the plains. And all across America, from sea to shining sea, where the mountains and the prairies meet, is a place I need to be. Home is where Montana is my home. From mountain peaks to prairie lands, the places I have known. And I'm bound to ranch.
Hello, welcome to the Backroads of Montana. I'm your host, William Marcus. Our program travels the state looking for interesting people and places to visit and to bring to you. Today we're on location at Ulm Pishkun State Park, just west of Great Falls. For over 1,000 years, prehistoric people of the Great Plains hunted bison by herding them over these cliffs. It's called a buffalo jump, and Ulm Pishkun is one of the largest ever discovered. Our show today travels to eastern Montana. We'll look for dinosaur bones near Glendive, check out a custom-built saddle at a rodeo in Ekalaka, visit with old friends in my hometown of Wibaux, watch the sun go down in Medicine Rock State Park, and on the way home we'll help beautify the highway between Harlowton and Ryegate. All of those stories are coming up. But first we have a story about photographer Evelyn Cameron, who documented the pioneer era of eastern Montana. Many people were introduced to Cameron's work by this book by Donna Lucy, a New York historian who was doing research about pioneer women in the West. She came across a dust-covered pile of negatives and photographs by Cameron in a basement in Terry. The book prompted us to spend some time in the land that Cameron photographed. Evelyn Cameron and her husband Ewan arrived from England in 1889 as tourists. Their plan was to visit for a few months, making reports of the local plant and animal life for publication in the popular English travel journals of the day. Ewan was the naturalist. Evelyn took the pictures. But the Camerons, especially Evelyn, grew to love the vast landscape and eerie Badlands near the railroad town of Terry, and the couple put off their plans for return to England and settled into ranch life on the prairie. Ewan thought eastern Montana would be an ideal place to raise polo horses for export back to Britain. The venture ended in disaster, and Ewan withdrew into ill health and depression. Evelyn took over the daily chores of running the ranch and turned her camera lens inward on the couple's daily life, documenting everything from baking bread and milking the cows to the muddy, bleak ranch site itself. Today, there's little trace of the ranch house or outbuildings, but the spot nestled among the clay hills along Coal Creek northeast of Terry is filled with the subtle beauty you find in a gnarled piece of cedar or wind-sculpted sandstone. Local rancher Diane O'Neill understands that beauty. Her family has been ranching near Terry since 1898. Many of her relatives were friends of the Camerons and were photographed by Evelyn. To O'Neill, the pictures are family heirlooms that help her explain her own bond with the land.
When you're from eastern Montana, from this part of the country, it's just something that's a part of you that you love it. And you have a great deal of respect for the people that came before you and settled it.
Evelyn Cameron traveled everywhere on horseback to photograph the landscape and people of her new home. She sold the pictures to her neighbors to make money. The lifestyle etched on Cameron's glass negatives is stark. But the photographs also show the confident spirit of a cowboy or the tender touch of a father's hand. Among Cameron's best customers were the sheep shearers who migrated through the area with the seasons, or Italian immigrants who worked on the railroad. Evelyn Cameron was there with her camera when people took rare moments for recreation, a boxing match with an improvised ring, girls dressed up for a Sunday picnic, trying to ignore the antics of their kid brother, or or two sisters waiting for a holiday parade down Terry's Main Street. Today, you'll find a collection of Cameron's best work in the gallery located next to the Prairie County Museum in downtown Terry. Ivy Brubaker is one of the volunteers who helped set up the gallery. Her family, too, was photographed by Evelyn Cameron.
This Cameron album belonged to my mother and father, Lon and Irvy Fluss, and I inherited it from them.
Do you know where they got it?
They got it from Mrs. Cameron. She made many copies of pictures and put them in albums, and you could choose which pictures you wish to have in the album.
What do these pictures mean to you?
I don't know how to answer you. Quite a lot. The older I get, the more so.
Cameron documented a life that's gone, as though knowing that she was building her own legacy with her pictures. She placed her shadow as a signature in the corner of this one. Cameron used the bright prairie sun as a tool, fashioning images that are haunting in their bleakness, or whisper with sweet nostalgia. Her friend Janet Williams would inherit Evelyn's collection and pack it away safely in her basement, where it remained in obscurity for 60 years. Evelyn Cameron never left Montana, though her love for England remained strong. She died in 1928. But her legacy, her dusty glass negatives, has re-emerged as an accurate and sensitive recollection of a hard but satisfying life. Evelyn Cameron kept detailed diaries of her daily life in Montana. Portions of those diaries are also on display at the Cameron Gallery in Terry. Next, we're going back much further in time, 65 million years, to look for fossils from the age of the dinosaurs. We hope to find some in Makoshika State Park, and we'll get help from Glendive's premier dinosaur hunter. Our fossil hunt with Doc Hiatt began inauspiciously enough in Doc's garage. In among the old magazines, gardening tools, and snow tires are artifacts from a Jurassic age that would humble many museums.
These are toe bones. This is a scute, or the sequoia cones. I stumbled onto this vertebra. It's a turtle shell, and this is a nasal horn. This is a humerus, although it doesn't look very funny.
Since the early 60s, Doc Hiatt, a retired Glendive optometrist, has made the Badlands of Makoshika State Park his second home. Here, Doc has collected fossils, identified new wildflower and bird species, photographed geological wonders, and hiked over 5,000 miles. Through frequent lectures, slideshows, and artifact donations, Doc is able to share his discoveries and his experiences. But above all, he loves to share his enthusiasm for bones.
One day I came in at deep dusk, and before I got in the car, I decided to spit, but nothing came out. Suddenly I realized I'd been out there for 16 hours, climbing the hills, no food, no drink. I wasn't even tired. I mean, that's how nutty you can get when you're kind of excited about something new and different, you know. The hills just kept beckoning to me, you know.
Torker, a four-legged bone collector, shares Doc's enthusiasm, signaling that it's time to leave the cramped garage and head out into the hills. With his walking stick and his trademark red socks, Doc has no trouble descending the Gumbo Cliffs in search of Makoshika's hidden treasures.
I don't know here if we go around this thing or not. No, this isn't our destination. It's around the corner here, though.
Now, deep within the park, the scenery becomes almost alien. It's a land of strange beauty filled with caprocks, hoodoos, and eerie rock formations.
One of my nicknames for Makoshika is the land of rock and roll, and you can see why here. Unreal.
The Badlands of Makoshika expose ancient rock layers. Here, the Yellowstone River has literally sliced through time to an age when this area was a swampy coastal floodplain, rich with plant and animal life, back to the age of the reptiles. Surely this would be the ideal place to find a Triceratops femur or a T-Rex tooth.
Well, where we are right here, about 50 feet under the ground.
But as the afternoon heat and our exhaustion increases, so does the realization that we're not really looking for dinosaur fossils. Instead, we're carried along with the enthusiasm that Doc shares for this park as a place for reflection and escape.
It's peaceful, and a couple of hours out here, like we're experiencing right now, there's something cleansing about it. You never know who's going to be smitten with a place like this.
Doc hopes that more people become smitten. In his 30-year association with the park, he's shared his knowledge through interpretive hikes, outdoor classes, over 500 slideshows, and countless donations to schools. And although his stewardship has earned him the title of Mr. Makoshika, Doc is quick to recognize the source of Makoshika's many wonders.
I like to give God credit.
To preserve Makoshika and this Ulm Pishkun State Park as places for recreation, inspiration, and education, it's important to leave artifacts and fossils in place and report any discovery to a park employee. The third state park we'll visit in the show is in extreme southeastern Montana, Medicine Rock State Park. Here, wind and weather have transformed simple sandstone bluffs into majestic shapes. Long ago, they were covered with sacred Indian carvings, and even today, the area holds a strong religious significance for Native Americans. If you're looking for a quiet, inspirational spot, Medicine Rocks is one of the least visited state parks in Montana. Ulm Pishkun, 1,000 years ago, was anything but peaceful. Behind me is the killing area, where the animals were slaughtered after they plunged over the cliffs. Beneath me are 1,000 years of buffalo bones, left after the Native Americans had used every part of the animal. There's lots of excitement in our next story as well. We're off to Ekalaka for the rodeo. To win at this grueling sport takes a brave rider, a smart horse, and a well-built saddle between the two.
Okay, oh, here we got a hard running steer.
The cowboys are wrestling.
Now plants, turn, shift, throws, yes.
The cowgirls are tying. And the stands are full at the Days of 85 rodeo. We're in Ekalaka on this hot and dusty afternoon to ask the experts what makes a good saddle.
Something stout that you can do anything with. It's got to be comfortable if you're going to use it all day.
You bet. Rides over top. Oh, we got to figure out. We got him right around the nose. Here's one.
It's tight, so like when you're running around and stuff, when you're coming out of the barrel, you don't get thrown back. And it's got deep swells. It's like deep, so you can't like get thrown out of the saddle and stuff, you know.
Some saddles just fit better than others. Fits your horse good.
A saddle that I really like is usually built by a custom saddle maker. These are factory-made saddles, and they're nice saddles, but they're just, the custom makers put a little more time and effort into their work.
One person who takes a little more time creating saddles is John Brown, proprietor of the Saddle Shop in Ekalaka. Brown uses simple ideas and common sense when it comes to building his custom saddles.
The first thing, it's got to fit the horse, the tree. It's got to fit the horse. And then it's got to fit the man, and you've got to use good material. And you've got to, you know, it's got to be stout. You don't want it tearing up. People get hurt when things tear up, so you want to make it stout as you can. But you got to use good leather and good material. Yeah, most of them like them. Well, I've never had anybody really complain, I guess. Never had one to come back. And I guarantee them to fit the horse and the man. If they don't, I'll build them another. There's two of these, and then I lace them together, and they'll fit right on the saddle.
Brown started working with leather when he bought the shoe shop in Ekalaka when he was just 18. After a stint in the military and years on the rodeo circuit, Brown started designing saddles, picking up pointers here and there, and learning from each saddle he built.
Them old saddle makers, everything was a secret, you know. They didn't want to show you anything. So I had the hell of a time getting somebody to show me some of the things that's hard to learn, you know. But I persevered. When you get that done, then you put the seat in.
Brown works in the back of the small store on Ekalaka's Main Street.
You want your name on, right?
He takes the orders, helps decide the designs, chats with an old friend who stops by.
We don't rodeo much up here in February.
And still finds time to get some work done.
Well, some people think it takes me 3 or 4 months. They're waiting, you know. If I don't have anything to do, just sit and do it and put in a decent day, you know, 4 or 5 days just for a plain one.
For $1,200, Brown will give you his normal everyday saddle. But for a few dollars extra, Brown can design you a work of art.
It's going to look, just that little border's just going to go around the edge of this, see? They know what they want, pretty much, a border design or corner stamp or basket or flowers.
And each completed saddle gets the Brown Mark of Excellence.
I've got a logo that says Brown, it's got a steer head under it. I put that on the saddle. I put it on the wood burner.
John Brown has designed ornate saddles for the Montana and Wyoming centennials, but they're not the kind he likes to build. He enjoys the satisfaction of creating a good saddle, something that will be used and enjoyed by his favorite kind of people.
You go to a rodeo and see 4 or 5 year saddles out there, it really makes you feel good. Or a branding even. You go out here and help somebody brand, and there's 4 or 5 of them cowboys riding your saddle. It makes you feel good. And they're all liking them and using them, you know. That's what it's all about, I think.
John Brown is just one of many Montanans who are returning to their hometown to retire or start a business. That's true in my hometown of Wibaux, which is at the opposite end of Highway 7 from Ekalaka. Wibaux. Wibaux, not Wibaux. It's French for Pierre Wibaux, a cattle baron who left his mark on the town in the late 1880s. The first stop in Montana on the Northern Pacific Railroad line, Wibaux was a major shipping point for cattle, sheep, and horses. Today, Wibaux's Main Street is showing signs of wear, but the townspeople are trying to brighten their future by illuminating the past. Pierre Wibaux's townhouse has been restored and is open as a museum. Local citizens donated the items. Some were used by Wibaux and his wife Nellie. In addition to these fragile relics, you'll find living history in Wibaux. Lela Hall and Miriam Breitenfeldt are both in their 90s and have lived here for over 7 decades. Lela arrived in 1913 in a covered wagon. She later married Guy Hall, an NP Railroad station master. They lived upstairs in the depot. Lela says it was almost too easy to get used to the noisy trains.
Well, I don't know, those people that say, did such and such a train go, you know, or had more passenger trains those days. And I couldn't even tell them. notice it, you know, you just get used to it.
A cutback in rail service was the demise of the station master and the depot.
And I'm so mad that they took that depot away. I think they should have left it there for a museum or something. More people come in town asking, where's the depot? We want to see the depot. Yeah, we had some good times up in that depot.
Miriam Breitenfeldt, who arrived in nearby Beach, North Dakota in 1908, remembers good times, but also hard work on the farm and cold winters.
I remember I wore sheepskin packs on my feet in my kitchen. It was so cold.
You wore what?
They were sheepskin packs.
Oh my goodness.
It was so cold, it would even freeze the ice in the reservoir on the stove.
Oh my. That's cold.
The reservoir in this wood stove isn't frozen. Antiques are hot items in this new store, located in the building that was once my family's drugstore. Marcus Drug thrived from the late 40s through the 50s and 60s. The soda fountain featured my mother's homemade ice cream. Linda Collins, a Wibaux native, refurbished the building and got the soda fountain working again. She moved back to Wibaux from Helena to open the business.
Because this is home. And I think that everybody wants to come home sooner or later, you know, and this was the perfect opportunity.
And an opportunity to live the American dream.
I think that's America's ideal, is to live in a small town, to know people, to know there's a trust in a small town. I wish I could have raised my kids here.
Like other small Montana towns, Wibaux is being rediscovered. After years in decline, the population is inching back up. Its cottonwood-lined streets shelter a new generation of kids who spend their summer afternoons on bicycles. And once again, there's ice cream at the soda fountain downtown. Hometowns stir a mixture of feelings. The poet Richard Hugo wrote about his hometown in the poem White Center. It ends this way. I walk this past with you, ghost in any field of good crops, certain I remember everything wrong. If not, why is this road lined thick with fern, and why do I feel no shame, kicking the loose gravel home? Our way home took us through the Musselshell River Valley and the small community of Ryegate, northwest of Billings. We were hoping to spot some special roadside attractions along Highway 12. Montana residents motoring along Highway 12 between Ryegate and Harlowton don't measure distances in miles or even kilometers, but in woodpeckers.
From here to Shawmut, which is the next little town, there's 18 woodpeckers. And from Shawmut to Harlowtown, there's 23. There's 23, plus the little ones. So when they ask, well, how far is it up to Harlow? Well, it's 43 woodpeckers or whatever. That's what we use for our mileage. We measure it that way. Yeah.
In 1994, a trio of Ryegate retirees, Earl Osey, his wife Henrietta, and their friend Jerry Gantz, decided to adopt a portion of Highway 12 and beautify it by placing a homemade red-headed woodpecker each mile along the route.
Basically, kind of how it got started. We wanted something out there, for the people to see. And I cut out 12 of them. Well, 12 didn't go no place. So we cut out another 12, and it still didn't go no place. Well, we wound up getting 42 of it to fill up all the gaps and all the locations that we had to make it, you know, you don't have them too far apart.
The woodpeckers are hatched in Earl's hobby shop. He and Jerry can cut out 25 adult birds from one sheet of 1/4-inch plywood and a couple of little ones. After that, they're primed and painted and detailed with a distinctive coat of red and black. Finally, each bird comes to roost in a special mounting bracket. It's a busy, creative process that keeps these friends in a talkative mood.
You doing anything over there? How come you're so quiet?
Hey, I'm working.
Earl believes that in the tradition of the old Burma shave signs, these woodpeckers are for travelers to identify and enjoy. At the beginning of the woodpecker route, there's a large sign alerting folks to what awaits them in the trees.
We was following the motor home to Harlow here one day, the wife and I, and you could see those little kids. It was on this side. It was on that side when they was coming to the woodpecker. And they was counting them things, so you know they're seeing them out there, you know.
The route requires occasional maintenance. Limbs must be trimmed back, entire trees have blown down, or more often, a woodpecker is missing in action.
One weekend they took 4 on us, and that just about took the starch out of us. I think they throw a rope over it or something, and then they pull them down out of the bracket. We went on and put them back up and kept the route up, and so.
You got your screw started there?
What is it like?
Yeah, scary up there?
Very scary at times, especially on a day like this.
Things are less windy back at the shop, where business is branching out. Earl, Jerry, and Henrietta make bluebird nesting boxes, as well as more of their famous woodpeckers to sell. So far, over 500 have gone to customers across the country. And although the extra cash comes in handy, Earl believes that the true reward is in delighting others by keeping his feathered friends out on a limb.
And that makes you feel good. That's what it's for. You know, it's just for the people to enjoy and so on and so forth.
You won't find one of these along the interstate. And no, we didn't rob the nest. You too can buy one of these birds at Earl's place in Ryegate. Just look for the woodpeckers in his front yard. Well, that's our show. We need to thank the good staff people at 3 Montana state parks, Makoshika, Medicine Rocks, and Ulm Pishkun, for all their help. And we'll thank you in advance for any story ideas you have for our show. Send them to the Backroads of Montana, University of Montana, Missoula, Montana, 59812. And thank you for watching the Backroads of Montana. I'm William Marcus. See you next time.
Home is where Montana is my home. From mountain peaks to prairie lands, the places I have known. And I'm bound to ramble, yes, I'm bound to roam. And when I'm in off the road now, boys, Montana is my home. Coming in off the road now, boys, you know I'm heading home.
This program was made possible by production support from the Greater Montana Foundation, Travel Montana, and the University of Montana.